Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to lecture 23 of AAA Forensic Audit. So, till now, this is the fourth specific assignment that we are going through. First, we went through review of interim financial information. Second was prospective financial information. And third one is due diligence. And this is the fourth forensic audit. Here, we are going to go through what is forensic audit, acceptance considerations, level of assurance, how do you plan for it, reporting, and the procedure. So, as our other specific assignments is the same definition, acceptance considerations, and procedure we are going to go through. Now, the field of forensic accounting, okay, this is a very specialized branch. Okay, it is mostly carried out by forensic accountant, sorry. It includes forensic auditing and investigation. Okay, and for forensic engagement you need more broader range of skills compared to other specific assignments like review or prospective financial information or due diligence. Forensic engagement needs more skills, more broad range of skills. Okay, because it is usually used in fraud or crime or insurance complex areas. Forensic engagements are used. Okay, but still we use to collect evidences and all. We some areas we use traditional auditing skills. Okay, and in your on your ACCA website there are two technical articles on this area. Name is forensic auditing and massaging the figure. So make sure that you read both the technical articles. Okay, and you can download it from your ACCA website also. Then forensic audit. Okay, that means this refers to some specific procedure. Okay, you do the procedure to investigate. Okay, basically to obtain evidence to quantify a loss. For example, let's say some earthquake happened or some natural disaster happened or any kind of event that occurred, okay, due to which you have suffered loss but you are not able to quantify the loss. So forensic auditor comes and puts a value to it, the amount of loss they quantify. That is known as forensic audit. Okay, so the purpose of this is to put the claimant means the person who has suffered the loss. Okay, to put the claimant in a position that they were before that event have occurred. Okay, that means they will be compensated for the loss that they have incurred. Maybe it is some additional cost that they suffered, for that they'll be compensated, or due to even their profit there was a loss of profit, for that they will be compensated. Okay, now so here you can use some of the auditing techniques like analytical procedure or substantive procedures also. Two main areas that we are going to cover here. One is to quantify a fraud. The other one is to determine the amount of an insurance claim. These are the two areas we're going to cover in this lecture. So, fraud investigation. Okay, examples like theft. Okay, if someone is stealing company funds or tax evasion or insider dealing, these are examples of fraud, which is not legal. So here, the types of work that an auditor needs to do is they have to trace the fund, they have to identify the asset and recover. Then due diligence review is done. They can interview suspected victim, okay, or the suspected criminal. Then they can do a detailed review of the documentary evidence. Then another application of this is forensic auditing is in profession negligence. Here basically loss is suffered because they placed their reliance on some professional advisor. Okay, because of that they have suffered a loss. Here, type of work: advice on the merits of the case in respect of liability and quantifying losses. Then insurance claim, like any event which is causing a business interruption or property losses or accidents of cars, okay, or wrongfully you have been dismissed, so you can claim insurance for it. Like the work is required is detailed review of the policy. Okay, either you can get it from the person who is insured or insurers. anyone's perspective, you have to review the policy to investigate coverage issue. Okay, and how they and identifying the appropriate method of calculating loss. That's very important. So, as a part of an assignment, a forensic accountant will communicate their findings in a form of report. It could be in a form of report or exhibit or collection of documents, anything, but they will communicate. Next, this helps them, especially in legal proceedings. Okay, it can help the judge to decide a case. There, their works are very much in demand because they can testify in the court as an expert witness. And forensic accountant may be used as an expert witness where, not everywhere. There are some areas where, and not everyone can be used as an expert witness, by the way. The person whom you are taking as a witness should be an expert in that field. Okay, where they have the experience, expertise, and training. Okay, appropriate to that value, to the complexity of the case. Next, they have the expertise relevant to the issue on which an opinion is sought. For example, if you want my opinion on ACCA, okay, I'm an expert on that field because I've already covered the exam. I finished the exam, right? So I'm an expertise on that. So like that, and it is a reasonable requirement to resolve proceedings also. It's and if you think it's reasonable under that condition to take them as an expert witness, you can take them. Now, let's go through two examples where accounting fraud took place. One is in Tesco. We all know what is Tesco, and Toshiba, very well-known company. Tesco is the biggest retailer, right, in UK. In 2014, what happened? Their profit was overestimated. Okay, they overestimated their revenue. Therefore, the profit was overstated. By how much? 263 million UK pounds. Profit was overstated by 263 million, not a small amount. How did they do this? They overestimated the revenue that is paid to it by their supplier. And why do you think Tesco had to do this? You must be asking this question because Tesco is already a well-known big retailer, right? Why? The reason is because that time in 2014 they were struggling to maintain their market share because they were getting a competitive pressure from LD and lid. That's the reason. Next example is of Toshiba. In 2015, okay, Toshiba is an electronic company, by the way. They have admitted that they have overstated their earnings by 2 billion over 7 years. Okay. So once an investigation was done, and in that investigation, it was found that Toshiba has this culture only that no one can challenge the management decisions. Whatever the management says, you have to go by it, whether it's right or whether it's not. That means employees were pressurized to go by inappropriate accounting method. So they were postponing their losses in the later years. Right? Next, acceptance consideration. Some of it, most of it you must have gone through, but when it comes to forensics, especially, more focus is on ethical principles, the fundamental ethical principles for forensic audit. You must have not seen this in the previous three specific assignments. But for this, yes, you have to comply with the fundamental ethical principles, the 5 fundamental ethical principles. All of you should know it. Okay? They are number 1, the first one, professional competence and due care. One of it is professional competence and due care. That means whoever is doing this forensic investigation, they should have they should be skilled. They should have the specialized skills like detailed knowledge. They should have a detailed knowledge of the legal framework. Next, they should have an understanding on how to gather specialist evidence. Okay. Then skills in the safe custody of evidence. Collecting evidence is okay, but you should also know how to keep it safe. Keep those evidence safe. That is also skill. Okay. And your personal skills should be very strong. For example, you should know how to do an interview. Okay. You should know how to present material in the court. Next, ethical is confidentiality. Confidentiality. So according to this confidentiality, whatever the information, okay, that auditor or the practitioner acquires during their business relationship with their client, they should not disclose it to third party, right? But when it comes to certain cases, okay, especially legal cases and all, they need this information. Okay, the court needs this information from the practitioner. So that time practitioner has to reveal the information. Okay, because there is an overriding requirement to disclose all of the information that is deemed necessary by the court. When it comes important for the court to decide for a case that they need a certain kind of information, practitioner has to give that information, because that time that rule overrides the confidentiality rule, the confidentiality principle. Okay, you cannot say that you have to comply or you have to go by confidentiality. That's why you cannot disclose the information. You have to give it to the court. Okay, but outside the court, yes, practitioner has to maintain confidentiality, because much of the information this practitioner has is very high sensitive. You cannot give it to anyone. Third is integrity. Okay, most of the time you will see forensic professionals, they deal with individuals who lack integrity, or they may be involved in criminal behavior. So what should you do? What should the forensic professional do? You should work with them in such a way that it does not damage your own reputation, such as you cannot accept bribe from them, nor you can give bribe to them. Okay, professional behavior, that means professional, see, fraud investigations and all, they become a matter of public interest. Everyone knows in the public, right? And much of their media attention is also focused on that. They want to know the outcome of the result, right? How the practitioner is doing their work, the outcome and everything. So everyone has an eye on them, right? So that's why when you go out, you have to maintain a highly professional attitude, needs to be maintained all the time. Okay, because if there is any lapse in the professional behavior, then your credibility as a practitioner will be questioned in the court. Okay, objectivity, always you have to be independent. Okay, to assess this independence, the expert should consider whether the opinion would be same if they were engaged by the opposing party. Okay, especially this is very important if that forensic report is going to be submitted to the court, because remember, practitioner has a duty to the court, not to the client who is paying you the fee. Because if your objectivity is threatened, it will hinder your credibility also. Credibility of the evidence also will be hindered. Okay, next, accountant also have to safeguard themselves against advocacy and self-review threat. How? Advocacy threat. Okay, firms sometimes may feel pressurized into promoting the interest of their client, the client who is going to pay them fee, right? So this breaches the concept of objectivity in the court proceedings. Okay, so what should the practitioner do? They should communicate their duty to the court to prevent any misunderstanding. Second, self-review threat. So this arises when an auditor becomes involved in forensic work. Audit is the one who's doing the forensic work also. Because if an auditor likes to discover, okay, maybe during their audit procedures and all, he came across fraud or potential misstatement in the financial statement. So when forensic work is done, he will like to hide it, right? Because he's reviewing his own work. So he will not like to show his mistakes, right? Or his own mistakes to the client. That's why Separate teams must be used for different engagement. Forensic work, hire another team. Audit, hire another team. That is safe. Level of assurance. Okay. Forensic engagements are generally they are conducted on agreed upon procedure basis. That means no assurance. Okay. So practitioner will just report their factual findings to the client. Okay, and the procedures are dependent on the client's requirement. Now, planning and performing the forensic audit. So procedures might include inquiries or interviews of key staff, detailed inspections and analysis of documentary and evidence like bank statement, loan agreement, email, accounting record, test of control, analytical procedure, okay, so that practitioner understands the past performance, okay. Then automated tools and techniques like they can use audit software, test data and data analytics. Planning stage. You see that in the previous three, we didn't have this planning and performing the engagement, right? But in forensic audit, we have because it's very complex and it's very sensitive. And it's very risky also compared to the other engagements, right? So how do you plan for it? Hold a meeting. Okay. First, you hold a meeting to clarify certain things. Number one, what is the objective of the investigation? Number two, what are the actions taken so far? You need to contact with the police, maybe if it's a crime, right? Or sometimes you might need to contact the insurance company, right? Then the planned deadline for the report. Confirm that the investigation team will have full access to the information required. Okay. And also they can discuss any matter with police without having that fear that they are going to breach confidentiality. This needs to be confirmed. Okay. Then confirm that the output will be reported. Okay. The output of the investigation and to whom the report will be addressed. This needs to be confirmed. Then you should make sure that you have the resources and the skills to carry out such a work. Okay. Then confirm whether firm will be required to add as an expert witness. Now, for fraud investigation, steps are different. For insurance, verifying insurance claims, steps are a bit different. Starting with fraud investigation. For fraud investigation, what is the objective and scope? Here you need to identify what is the type of fraud, how long it has been occurring for, how the fraud was concealed, who are the main suspect. Then you need to quantify the loss. You need to gather evidence to support it. And provide advice so that in the future you can prevent such fraud from occurring. Now, these are some specific procedure. Make sure that you know the specific procedure because this is the area where examiner could test you. For example, you can inspect payment for the evidence of authorization. You can use software to trace all payment to a particular bank statement. To a particular bank account number. Then again, you can use audit software to identify employees who have not taken their annual leave entitlement. Then you can inspect report regarding any changes of standing data. You can use analytical procedure to identify any trend. Okay, because through trend also fraud could be identified. Then you can interview the suspect and you can see how they are explaining themselves. You can inspect the supporting documentation. For example, you can go through contract of employees or GRN. GRN is goods received note or invoices. To see whether the expenditure is legitimate or fraud. Inspect the company's insurance policy. Okay, to identify whether fraud is covered or not. Now, For insurance claim, we have specific procedure. Here you are going to inspect the policy, okay, insurance policy. For example, what is the period of the insurance cover needs to be checked. Next, inspect the bank statement to confirm that payment has been made to the insurance company. Then, for assets that is being claimed, you have to inspect the asset register, through which you can verify the value of the asset. Then, where insurance replaces a new for old, you have to inspect the price list to identify the current price of an asset. And for business interruption insurance, okay, let's say your business has suffered revenue decline, then what? For that, you have to analyze the level of the business generated in the previous years, okay, and also whether any growth is achieved in the current year or not to date, so that you can quantify the level of business that you have lost during the relevant period. Next, perform a reconciliation of records to physical items to verify number of items that has been destroyed or lost. Okay. Discuss with the police whether any items being claimed have been recovered or not. Now, reporting. Okay. For reporting, after forensic investigation is done, we report. Okay. And since this is an agreed upon procedure, so here in this forensic report, practitioner will address the requirement of the client. This how a basic report will look like. It will have a summary of the procedure done, summary of the result, any limitation in the scope of engagement, and a conclusion. So now we'll be doing a question before we summarize this lecture. Test your understanding 1. So in this question, this is about a forensic investigation, and the two requirements are explain the steps in forensic investigation of the company and the procedure for 5 marks. So there's a fraud that happened in this company. Let's see what kind of fraud it is. Okay. So this company is into local property management company. Okay. The director of that company have approached you to conduct a forensic investigation. Okay. Because he discovered that there are some unusual transactions. Now we'll see. So there was a review that has been done by the internal audit of the company, and when they reviewed, okay, they have identified some unusually high rental charges. See, they are in the property management, right? Local property management. So with property comes leases, rent, and all those things. Okay. So they have seen that there are some high rental charges on some specific invoices, okay, to a particular local authority. And there are also some series of credit notes to the same local authority detailing discounts on the rental income. Okay. So if you see, this discount was refunded. That means they are given back rather than netting it off against the value of the rental charge. Okay. They are being sending back to the local authority in a bank account, in his bank account. Now, number of properties leased to this authority has increased significantly in the last 6 months. During the 6 months only, there's an increase in the property that has been leased to this authority increased. Now, when an investigation was done, okay, Graney is the chair in the audit committee of the company. Okay, he revealed that local authority had no knowledge of the discount. Okay, and they also confirming that the bank account to which the discount has been refunded is not their own. Okay. In fact, the local authority is saying that the bank account belongs to an employee who works in a procurement department. That means one employee of that company, of that local authority. Okay. So what happened when the fraud was suspected? Granny stopped any further payment to this account. Okay. Regarding the discounts and all. And even the sales director was absent when the investigation started. Okay, Grain is believing that even sales director is involved in this fraud. Okay, so now you have to do the forensic investigation. It's a very simple case study. Okay, you just have to know the steps and the procedure to find out this fraud. This is regarding some discount on the rent paid to a bank account which is not which is an employee in the procurement department. So 5 marks means 5 steps. Okay, so these are the steps. Okay, usually whenever you are given fraud, you will see these are very common. Only you have to link it to the case study. That's it. The points will be same. For example, you have to determine the type of fraud. Whatever fraud it is, any fraud is given, you have to determine the type of fraud. Right? Number one step is that. Number two, consider how the fraud took place, how that fraud has taken place. Because if you don't know how the fraud takes place, you cannot prevent in the future. Right? Third, how long the fraud has been operating. Very important. Then gather evidence. Next step. So how many steps are there? Till now, 4. Okay, so there are 4 steps. So I guess for this there are 2 marks because it seems that lots of explanations are there. Then the remaining else is 1 mark each. Okay, 1 mark each. Okay, coming to the first one. Determine the type of fraud has taken. What type of fraud it is? This is about a payment to an employee. Okay. So basically you have to give the facts first, explain the facts from the case study. Okay, when you're explaining the type of fraud. So it's about an employee who has been receiving discount in their personal bank account. Okay, and also significant increase in leases also to that particular local authority has increased during 6 months. So what type of example is it? It could be an example of bribery or corruption. Okay, maybe that employee is receiving more from the company in return for awarding contracts. Okay, contracts to them. This is very common, right? This type of fraud takes place very often. Giving bribery, accepting bribery, paying bribery, right? So if you see currently, what is happening currently? At present, the fraud is only between the company and that local authority, particular local authority. It has not been made public. But you have to see whether the issue is more pervasive. Pervasive means is it having an impact on other places also? Whether other local authorities are also involved or not. Whether the fraud is only in that place or it is spread across other areas. Okay. And also you have to consideration has to be given whether there's any legitimate reason for that unusual transaction. So whenever you are assessing whether fraud has taken place, professional skepticism needs to be practiced. Okay, coming to second one, how fraud has taken place. So this is mostly you can say lack of internal control, right? This type of fraud that is in this case study, you can say it's a lack of control. Okay, you can also see it is not just lack of internal control, someone overriding internal control, but maybe it could be a collusion. What is collusion? What is it? When group of employees they join together and they decide to go against the internal control, override the internal control rules. That is collusion. Okay. For example, see, always try to give examples. Okay, wherever you can, because you can get more marks through it. If you have more specific examples are more specific, you can collect more marks. Not everywhere examples are relevant, but some area yes. For example, there should be a control in place to ensure that new contracts with customers and refund to customers are approved by senior manager. What's happening in the business currently? Are there any senior manager? We don't know, because how is it that is like how easy it is to give refund to the customer? They're easily giving it. That means there is no control at the moment, right? There has to be someone to approve that refund also. It's not that you keep on giving refund to a certain employee. Okay. Now, how long the fraud has been taking place? You can say around 6 months, because they told around 6 months only leases increase significantly. Possible, but maybe it could be more than that. But according to this case, it's possible that at least 6 months ago fraud must have taken place. Okay. Because, why? See, just don't say 6 months. Link it with some information. Here you can say increase in number of properties leased. That also happened 6 months ago only. Somewhere we read right here. Yes, see, last 6 months I've highlighted it. So it's possible. Now gather evidence. Okay. So when you're gathering evidence, two things are there. You have to identify the criminal as well as the monetary value of the fraud. Two things. Okay. So when you're gathering evidence, you can examine their accounting records, their documentation like bank statements and email, because bank statement only you need because payments and all. Okay. And also you can use ATTS, that is automated tools and techniques. You can interview the employees of the company and discuss with the management. This is some very basic evidence, right, that you can give. Here, procedure. Okay, so that's it. Now we are coming to the procedure. If you see, there are 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11, around 11 procedures are there, but any 5 is fine. Okay. And I don't think I have to explain you the procedure, because we have been repeatedly doing this over and over again, and procedures is something when you read it is very easily understood. So I think you can read it on your own and you can understand, right? But some areas, let me tell you. Okay. See, you can use the word reconcile, recalculate, obtain, review. All those things is fine. But understand the source of evidence. For example, for leases, you might want to read lease agreements. Okay. You might want to recalculate the payment. You might want to use audit software to trace the bank account with the payment made. Okay. So all those things could be done. Okay. So procedures you can read on your own. This is something understood, easy to. Okay. Coming to uh, test your understanding too. Okay, the next question. So you have been asked by the company to carry a forensic audit. This is regarding a suspected expenses fraud within marketing department. Okay. Here they are saying management have noticed that expenses budget of 300 was exited by 30,000, and they don't know what is the known increase in activity. Okay. Here also, how do you plan the audit and the procedure? So we'll go through that. Okay. So matters to consider. Okay. See, when planning stage and all, this is very similar. Doesn't matter whatever the engagement you are doing, whether it is review, whether it is due diligence or forensic, matters are same. Like scope will be there. Consider the scope. Okay. Then the skills of the staff, whether they have the skill to do that. Okay. Then you need to calculate hours that you will use. What are the grades of staff that you are going to use and the cost. Okay. Then you can calculate a fee. For example, what is the fee you will take for it? Okay. And wait, it is. So when you're planning, this also comes. These are further extras that you can talk about. Okay. It comes as a part of procedure also. If you see, like for example, discuss and obtain, inquire. Okay, that also can come, because in planning stage you need, when you're planning, this has to come, because there's a fraudulent activity. Discuss with the management why they believe overspend is through fraudulent only, because sometimes overspend could be a genuine reason, right? Maybe somewhere something increased, that's why you have to overspend. So discuss with the management. Okay. Then consider the intended user of the report, because more the user, more the risk and also the liability. Then have an engagement plan. especially focusing on area where you think fraud can take place. Okay. Then you have to obtain a confirmation from management that expert will have full access to information. And also whether practitioner will be required to act as an expert witness in the court or not. That also inquire in case of fraud has taken place or something. Now coming to the procedure. Okay. So procedures also is something which you can read and have a clear understanding. Okay. For example, I will show you few. Okay. So what do you think could be, and identify the risk area. What could be the risk area? Maybe there's a lack of segregation of duty. Maybe there's a poor control environment, right? Basically, risk areas means what are the opportunities that could give rise to a fraud. Fraud does not take place. There should be a reason. There should be an opportunity for it. Wherever there's an opportunity for fraud will take place. Most likely, fraud takes place. For example, if there's a lack of segregation of duty, it's very unlikely fraud will not take place. Fraud will take place, right? So that's a risk area. Understanding? Then, because this is a variation in budget, you can do analytical procedure. Then you can speak with the marketing director to see if there's been increase in more trips. Why did I say about trips? See what type of business they are in the marketing field. Marketing means they have to travel a lot to their customer. You see? So that's why more trips. Because if it's more trip, then it makes sense that there's an increase in the expense. Okay. And also you can see whether there is any new customer or not, that you have won a new customer this year or not. Because if you have won a new customer, yes, it makes sense, marketing expense will increase. For example, cost of entertaining to win new business. Okay. Then you can inquire with the marketing director about whether expenses are authorized and they are within the limit. Okay. Whether there is a change in expense policy. For example, if you are going from a 3-star to 5-star hotel, okay, the meal allowances, if you are increasing, expenses will increase. These are just examples. And analyze expense claims by individual to try to identify a suspect. You see which individual is claiming for that expense. Okay. And inquire when the spending increased for the first time and what measures were taken to find the reason for the increase. You can even analyze expense by the category also to see which category has the biggest rise. For example, let's say there's an increase in fuel cost. It makes sense. If fuel cost increases, maybe because fuel price increases, it makes sense, right? That marketing expense will increase because fuel cost comes under marketing expense only. So if fuel prices increases, there's nothing you can do. It is something that is beyond your control. So things like that. So that's it for forensic audit. We started with definition that we gather evidence to for fraud investigation and insurance claim, verify insurance claim. And acceptance considerations are ethical threats, professional competence and due. See, these are the ethical threats, the 5 ethical code of conduct. Professional competence and due care, confidentiality, objectivity, integrity, and professional behavior. For procedure, we have inquiries, interview, test of control, detailed testing, analytical procedure, and automated tools and techniques. If you see in your other specific assignments like reviewing or prospective financial information or due diligence, we did not have test of control or detailed testing or automated tools. Why? The nature is not very serious or sensitive like this one, like forensic audit. Okay, that's why we need to check more procedures are there in forensic audit compared to the other 3. According to the nature, you have to suggest procedure. So that's it. And make sure now we have finished all the specific kind of assignments, non-audit services. Make sure that you do questions from the revision kit on this area, because you will get a question on this area. At least one question will come on this areas also. It could be due diligence, it could be fraud, it could be review, it could be anything. We don't know. So you have to be prepared. So I shall see you in the next lecture, and thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed yet.